G'day ladies and gents, welcome to War Thunder with Mags, and welcome aboard the BF-109 G-6. Now the G-6 isn't an aircraft I fly commonly. It's not because it's a bad plane, it's just a plane that doesn't mesh with my flight style very well. A lot of people do have a tendency to think of this plane as inferior, but I have a feeling they do not quite understand exactly what the G-6 represents in the game and in its construction. Now climb out on this match is pretty standard. Maintain 300 kilometers an hour during the climb, head towards the enemy runway, and first targets have presented themselves. Two BTDs. One is going low over A 190 is already moving to intercept that. Second BTD is moving to engage me, so I bring it around. It's time to put the G6's devastating firepower to work. BTD tries to nose, worst place in the world to go. First kill. Now, the Gustav series, or the G series of BF-109s, were developed after Allied heavy bombing had already started over German-controlled territories, and they were built specifically to encounter and counter Allied bombing formations. The G2 that appears in-game was built specifically to take on things like the P-47 Thunderbolt. It's a superiority fighter, designed to eliminate the escorts. The G6, however, was not. Common complaints about the G6 are its lack of manoeuvrability, speed and climb rate. This is all deliberate to the way the plane was built. The G6 is incredibly heavily armoured for a fighter of its size, and its armament is 3 30mm cannons and 250 caliber machine guns, an unheard of amount of firepower in a small fighter such as this. In fact, in War Thunder, I believe still to this day the only aircraft that has a higher burst mass than the G6, fully upgraded, is the ME-262 with its triple Mark 108 30mm cannons. Now the heavy armour on the G6 coupled with its heavy firepower tells you exactly what this plane was built to do. It was built to eliminate enemy bombers in large numbers. The armour was designed to keep the pilot and the aircraft flying even when flying into enemy defensive gunner fire, while moving through B-17 formations. The triple 30mm and twin 50 caliber machine guns were designed to relieve those bombers of their wings in the most efficient way possible. And when flown in this manner, there are very few aircraft in War Thunder that are as good as taking down heavy bombers as the G6 is. It is lethal in the right hands. But just because it's built to only take on bombers does not mean it cannot engage enemy fighters. It does, however, require a large amount of skill to do so. As I mentioned earlier, the extremely large guns and incredibly heavy armour does make this plane sluggish to manoeuvre, so it does require a lot of planning before putting it into combat. You need to select your targets carefully and play to your advantages. Due to the weight of the aircraft, its initial dive speed is rather low. Lighter aircraft will accelerate it at the beginning of its dive. However, once that dive has initiated, the G6 will accelerate at a rate that most aircraft are incapable of keeping up with. It can actually be rather hairy making high-angle dives in this aircraft. Its wings will break at about 750 kilometers an hour, give or take, and it will get there in an incredible hurry, as you're about to see. Now, my initial target was going to be that Spitfire, but it's about to be engaged by two 109s, so instead I decided to drive low and dive in on this P-51. I've wept off. As you can see, the dive speed pushing up towards 750 rapidly. I back it out to level, follow the P-51 through the loop, wep on to maintain speed. P-51 attempts to loop over and trying to get the guns on, take some lead shots, and one hit and the plane simply explodes. And that's my second kill of the match. Now there is one thing you need to watch when flying the G6. The 30mm are capable of applying devastating amounts of firepower, but it comes at the cost of ammunition load. You don't have a large amount of ammunition. The BTD and that P-51, as you can see, have dropped me down to only 22 rounds of 30mm ammunition remaining in the main guns. The wing pods are now empty, and I'm under 500 rounds of 50 caliber machine gun. Make a pass on the Spitfire. No love. Bring it over into a loop. Now, I wasn't the only aircraft diving on that Spitfire then. A second 109 made a pass through too. I didn't have a chance to pull out quickly enough, and I did clip him with my 50 caliber machine guns. Thankfully, that's all I clipped him with. If he got in front of the 30mm, that would have been a team kill. And that is one thing you do need to watch out for in the G6. Because its dive rate is so fast once it gets moving and its firepower is so extreme, you need to be very cautious on the trigger. If an allied fighter pulls into your arc of fire in front of your aircraft, and happens to fly in front of your 30mm burst, you will eviscerate them. There is very little you can do about it. If you're flying around G6s, you need to be aware of this. Once they open up, if you get in between them and their target and their bullets are flying, it's likely going to kill you. Now, I was just checking targets in the area. I have got targets above me. Thankfully, they all seem to be engaged. P-51 does make a pass on me there, but I bring it around tightly enough it was unable to follow. It turns in the opposite direction. Allied fighter support is coming in. I have depleted my 30mm rounds. I'm down to 441 rounds of 50 caliber ammunition, and I'm now in a low energy state. I no longer have the advantage of altitude, which is something the G6 requires in order for effective combat. At this point, it's time for me to go back to base. Thankfully, the flyback was rather uneventful, and due to having some extra 50 caliber rounds available and nobody on the runway, I do an MG braking manoeuvre. Nice gentle touchdown, and let's go get some fresh ammo and get back into this fight. So about 5 minutes have passed. I've repaired, rearmed, taken off and got back to altitude. Unfortunately, things have not been going well for the team. We are down to 2 remaining fighters, me included. And the G6 is not incredibly great as an air superiority fighter. The enemy team consists of 2 P-51s and a premium Spitfire. Now, these are aircraft that are designed for air superiority. Taking them on in a 2 versus 3 fight would probably not end well. However, on ticket counts, we are actually leading at the moment, which is rare for Germany. Rather than trying to engage the remaining P-51s in a fight that, why possible, would be incredibly difficult in order to pull a win out of, I decided the best way to do this was to deplete the last of the enemy team's points, and the most efficient way of doing this is actually completing the mission objectives for the map. One of them is to eliminate enemy spotting aircraft, so that's what I've done, and the other 109 on our team has exactly the same idea. Now, the only spot of the allies have remaining is this Mosquito. I let the G2 make its pass first. He fails to fire and take the kill, so I secure it. With the death of that aircraft, in a few moments the mission objective completes and the last of the enemy team's tickets are eliminated. Despite having 3 fighters and a definite advantage in terms of combat capability in this match, they lose. So let's go to the results. So the results for this match: second place for the team, 3 kills, that's 2 players and 1 AI. Final blow, Terror of the Skies and Bulletproof awards, 56,775 Silver Lions, 5,516 mod research points and 11,052 air research points. That unlocked me the new 30mm cannons, so they're upgraded, and that leaves me with only the cover left to research on the G6, so after about 8 months of having it, I've almost completed the upgrades on it. So the G6, I really must fly this plane more often. Despite popular belief, it is a very, very good aircraft. It just cannot be flown like other BF-109s are. It's not an air superiority fighter, it's an anti-bomber aircraft. You treat it as a heavy fighter more than you would a light air-to-air combat aircraft. And it's very, very, very good in that nature. And why, as you saw, it can be flown as an anti-fighter aircraft. It does require some very strict control, and for players like me that try and avoid head-ons as often as possible, it does require a little bit of getting over that in order to make it effective. This is the one aircraft where going to head-to-head is actually a very good tactic to use. So, moving on to the next plane. So next up is the LA-7b-20. Now this is another aircraft that I really haven't flown a lot of. In fact, I've never flown this aircraft in realistic battle before. I unlocked this plane in patch 1.35, just prior to patch 1.7 being released and the new research system being put into place. I took it out for a couple of arcade battles and got the very first upgrade for it, the airframe repair, and after that it sat in the back of my hangar and gathered dust. However, I decided it was time to start flying those planes that I really haven't been touching for an exceptionally large period of time. Now I'm out in this battle with Wings of Freedom, one of my subscribers. You will remember Wings from flying the F9 F2 in my CL13A video. Wings got in contact with me and wanted to come out for a fly, and we settled on Russia Era 4. Perfect time to bring this aircraft out for its first flight. Now we're on Korea and I'm just letting the B-17 pass underneath, no reason to engage it straight away. I really didn't know what to expect from this aircraft. I've flown and fully upgraded up to the LA-5FN before, but I really haven't flown the LA-7 or the LA-7b-20 at all, outside of arcade. It's really odd, I'm not entirely sure why. The LA-7s actually fit right up my flight style. They effectively fire like slightly slower Focke-Wulf 190s with more manoeuvrability, which is exactly the kind of aircraft I like. I'm not entirely sure why I haven't touched these. So just holding altitude, letting the enemy fighters pass underneath. Invert to split S. Making my first pass. The dive performance quite surprised me on this plane. This feels far closer to a Focke-Wulf 190 than the earlier variants of the LA series do. Pass over, didn't get a good gunshot on it, immediately pull back to altitude, select new fighter. Just letting Wings know what I'm up to in chat. We didn't have voice comms set up on this match, so all communications was being ran through the chat window. I really need to turn my auto disable chat off for these kind of battles. It makes it hard to track exactly what's going on. So almost get bounced there, put it into a straight line, keep the WEP on and just pull away. Use the speed, gentle dive and just put some distance between me and the target. Now I'm taking a close look at this F8 F1 ahead of me. Incredibly dangerous fighter. Put shot through and just clip. I'm not going to follow it through, I know I'm being pursued, and this is where I started realising exactly how manoeuvrable the LA-7b-20 is. Pull it straight into a split S, get the kill assist on the F8 F1B, and it pulls the split S in a really tight turn with almost no speed loss, so I immediately take a liking to the aircraft. However, I've got a Spitfire over here that I'm going to have to deal with next. Just keeping it in a level flight, keeping my speed maintained, and just watching what he's doing. Again, letting Freedom know in chat exactly what I'm up to. Freedom let me know at the start of this match that he generally only plays jets in RB, very rarely plays props, so he was playing top cover for me for the whole match. A lot of people will underestimate exactly how useful that is, knowing that there's somebody watching what's going on and making sure your ass is clear at all times. Incredibly useful. First shots at the Spitfire, it ducks underneath. Take it straight into a split S again. Select a high angle dive, roll out, drop onto tail. I've got so much speed on from the dive with WEP on, there's no way the Spitfire is going to outrun me. Take the lead, and that's that Spitfire out of the match. All the control surfaces knocked off and it's gone. First kill. And the match is going rather well at this point. This was a 5-on-5 stunted match with AI in. I don't like these small number matches, but unfortunately the matchmaker still creates them, and we've managed to eliminate 2 of the enemy's 5-player fighters. The 3 remaining aircraft are all B-17s. The team is moving on 2 of them already, however 1 is attempting to make a run out. I don't have locks on exactly where they all are just yet, so just pulling back for altitude, getting myself into a nice high angle position. B-17s are iffy to dive on. One of our players is going out removing all their AI, which is actually very useful, and it does save my ass at the end of this match. Now at this point we've actually lost track of where the remaining players on the enemy team are. I'm going to check out the far side of the river, where Allied fighters and bombers will often climb through in order to pick a good attack angle on ground targets on the Korea map, and head towards the mountain range. Freedom, however, is heading towards the enemy runway in order to check what's going on over there. Being that most of the remaining enemy team is B-17, it's possible that some of them have gone back to land to pick up a new payload. What follows is about 5 minutes of searching for enemy aircraft before we actually get a lock on, so we'll skip through to the next bit. So we're 3 or 4 minutes on. The mountain range was clear, however Freedom did locate a B-17 on the enemy runway. Now one of the enemy's players has been shot down, one has quit the match. This B-17 is the last aircraft on the enemy team and it's moving to take off just now. Freedom's moving to get himself into position to strafe the B-17 down as it's leaving the runway. I am just beginning my dive in. I haven't decided exactly how I'm going to approach this aircraft just yet. It is, however, turning towards me. I'm thinking it's probably going to be a good shot to try and get a cockpit hit on this aircraft as it's coming around. So I take it in low and fast. And I decide I'm not going to get a good enough angle of attack, not while Freedom's there. So take it into a split S, get above it, and dive in on it. Roll out for high angle attack. The gunner is still under manual control, shooting at Freedom. Doesn't see me coming. I'm aiming for the wing spar. I aim, well, not particularly well. Most of them hit the fuselage and cripple the fuselage, but do very little to take out the aircraft. I do take out 1 or 2 of the aircraft's gunners, however, on that pass. Pull back for altitude above. I'm going to do the same again. I thought he might be going down there, but he manages to bring the B-17 over the mountains and bring it around the other side. He's returning to his runway. He's returning to flat cover. Back into a split S. Time to reinitiate the dive. This time, however, the B-17 is wise to what I'm up to, so I'm not going in quite so hard, just keeping it in a shallow approach, get my speed up to move into position. I'm not ready to dive straight in on. Freedom has cleared the area, so I'm the only target for a hit, and he fires the guns and I take a hit. It only took one 50 caliber round to light the plane on fire. I'm probably going to die anyway. I have bad experience with fires going out, so move in and just unload the guns in. I've already taken out one of its engines on the first pass, try and cripple a second engine, turn around the mountains to get clear of the rest of the guns, and all I can do now is hope the fire will go out. Fuselage is crippled, rudder's been destroyed, elevators have been destroyed. There goes the tail, and the fire goes out. And this amazed me. Engine's pink, left wing is pink, left aileron control is pink. The rest of the plane, all over, is completely black. And I've still got control. This plane is still flying. If this engine doesn't fail, there's no reason I can't get this aircraft back to the runway at the moment. It is rocking and rolling all over the place. It's very hard to keep stable, but it's still flying. Thankfully, I don't have to worry about the landing. Freedom manages to finish off the B-17 after I made my pass through, and with all the AI eliminated, all I've got to do is keep this thing in the air, which, despite all the rocking and rolling, wasn't particularly difficult. And we win the match. So let's go check the results. So, results from my first ever realistic battle in the LA-7b-20. Third place for the team, 1 kill, 2 assists, all against players. The on-hand award, 49,353 Silver Lions, 2,280 mod research points, and 4,560 air research points. So that was almost enough research points to complete the radiator upgrade in the LA-7b-20, and, well, with the I-185, the new I-185 completed, that is my Soviet tech tree complete for patch 1.41. Overall, not a bad machine. I quite enjoyed flying it. It was fun. I liked the way it handled. I liked the way its guns worked. I liked its speed. I liked its maneuverability. I'm going to have to spend a little bit more time in this machine as time goes on. I'm still not entirely sure why I skipped it for as long as I have. Anyways, ladies and gents, I'm going to call this video here. Click like if you do. Subscribe if you want to see more. Fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.